In this video, we're going to use a feature called the Scenario Manager. It is part of the up in the data menu. There is an area over here in the what if analysis. It's part of the what if analysis tools available in Excel, and it's called Scenario Manager. We're going to use that to determine how various rates of inflation are going to affect our budget. So if you look at the spreadsheet that we have open here, you can see that it is a budget for a department, a computing services department. We're looking at the current budget, which is right here, a projected increase, and so then what the new budget would be. But the projected increase is one that can change based on inflation rates. So maybe there will be low inflation rates, and so that'll have a different impact on our budget than if there was a high inflation rate. So we're going to create, using the Scenario Manager up here in What If Analysis, we're going to create some various scenarios that we could then apply to the spreadsheet, and we could see fairly quickly then the effect that it's going to have on our budget. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to actually create the scenarios, and then we're going to apply them, edit them. I'll show you how to delete them, and we'll use the Scenario Manager even to create a summary report. So there's a lot to do with this video. So a lot of the information is already created in this worksheet that we're going to work with. So I want you to first of all pay attention to some named ranges that have already been created in this. So if I click on supplies, you'll see that computer supplies in our projected increase is cell C5, and so that's the Supplies Inc. range. Total new costs is our total of all of the items over there. Admin increase, so if it's just other administrative costs, it's the cell C7, and the named range then is admin increase for that one. Training Inc. is the Training and Development Department projected increase, and wages then is cell C4, so it's all of those. So each of those is named because we're going to use those name ranges in our scenarios. Alright, so we're going to start by clicking on the data, going over to What If Analysis, and choosing Scenario Manager. Alright, your Scenario Manager dialog box comes up. I'm just going to move it so that we can see everything on the screen at one time. And so right at the moment there's nothing there because we haven't created anything yet. So we're going to click on the Add button, and we're going to add a scenario using the Scenario Manager dialog box. So we're going to start by creating a scenario that would be based on low inflation. And so again, like when we're in our named ranges over here and other areas that we've been in Excel, we don't put a space in the name, so we just type low inflation. We can press Tab, and that'll take us to the changing cells. So the changing cells in our case are going to be C4 to C7. So those are the ones that are going to change each time we create a different scenario, the different increases, based on whether it's low inflation or high inflation. All right, we're going to click OK. Well, you can notice first in the comment box, it tells you that it's been created by me, and the date. Your name will appear when you're creating your own on your own system. So now we have the Scenario Values dialog box that has popped up, and so we're going in the number 1 box, and that is Wages Inc., and we're going to type in 12010 press tab, and that takes us down to the next one, which is the supplies. So if it's low inflation, we're going to guess that that's going to be a 2150. And then for the training with low inflation, we're going to type 5276. Press tab, and we'll be down in the admin increase, and we're going to put 1998, and then we can click OK. So what we've done is we've created a scenario. It's called low inflation. If I click on my edit button to go look at it, then it tells me that the name is low inflation, tells me the cells that are going to change. All right, tells me when it was created, when it was modified. All right, so I'm going to click on OK. And then I'm going to add another scenario. All right, that this time it's going to assume a high inflation. So I'm just going to cancel that. Takes me back to my scenario manager. I'm going to click on add because I want to add a new scenario. I want to call this high inflation. Okay, again, the changing cells are C4 to C7. I'm going to click OK, and I get my scenario values box up. So now I can type some new values in, assuming that it might be a high inflation. So 15224 for the wage. I'll press tab, and it goes to supplies. We'll type 2765. I'll press tab. It goes over to training, and we'll do 7236. Press tab, and for admin increase with a high inflation, I'll type 3195, and then I'm going to click OK. So now you can see that we have two scenarios, one called low inflation, one called high inflation. Okay, we're going to add the third scenario, which is where we started our original forecast. So we're just going to create it as a scenario, original forecast, so that it'll be, when we run our scenario manager report, it'll be included with them. And so then I'll click OK. And so in the scenario values, I'll notice that the original values that are over here are again in those cells. We've been changing them when we created the low inflation and high inflation, but we don't need to change them because we want to keep them as the original. So we just need to click OK and then to click close. So we've created three scenarios. You can't see that by looking at your spreadsheet. The only way you can see that we have scenarios is to click on the What If Analysis button and click on Scenario Manager. Your dialog box comes up, shows you there's a low inflation, high inflation, and your original forecast. So if you wanted to go and apply a scenario value to a worksheet, that's what we're going to do next. We're going to actually apply it to the worksheet. So we're going to leave this worksheet open, and then we'll go back up to our data. It's already open, our what if analysis, our scenario manager. And we can see that our three scenarios are listed there. So if I click on low inflation and then click the show button, see all of the values in the column C changed to match the scenario I created in low inflation, and then the new budget totals have shown in column D. So let me click on high inflation, and I'm going to click on show again, but when I do that, keep your eye over here so you can see all these values change. It happens so quickly. The Excel completes the operation so quickly that sometimes we miss what it is actually doing. So we can actually, with the scenario manager open, click on the scenario, click on show, and those numbers will appear, and we can see the effect that it's going to have on our overall budget in a kind of a very quick and easy way. So if you were making a presentation to a budget meeting, you could create these in advance. You could go in, have your Excel spreadsheet projected on the screen, and you could very easily show them, if the year turns out that we have a low inflation amount, then this is what our budget's going to look like. If it's going to be a high inflation, then it's going to look more like this, and then you can discuss the impact of that on the overall budget. The other thing that you can do once you've got your scenarios set up is you can create a summary report. So you can see here that there is a button for a summary report. And so if you wanted to create a report that shows all of them at once, then that's what we would use to do that. So we're going to click on Summary, and we want a scenario summary report type. So we want to make sure that that's highlighted or chosen, and D8 is the total overall that changes, right, with each scenario. So we'll make sure D8 is there, and then we'll click OK. Excel generates our summary report. So let's take a look here at what's happening. So we have a scenario summary here. If we click on sheet 1, that's where our data is, where it started. So Excel created a brand new worksheet called Scenario Summary and dropped in the summary report. You'll see that our low inflation has its own column, high inflation has its own column, and the original forecast. The total costs are along the bottom, right? Excel automatically formatted it into a table format with different shading so that it's easy to read. So you can very quickly, in a meeting, if you were, you could very quickly go in and create that summary report and then immediately discuss the impact of all the changes on your budget. So that's how you use the Scenario Manager in Excel. You find it under Data, What If Analysis, Scenario Manager. So we created 3 different scenarios. We applied the Show button in our earlier spreadsheet so that we could see them change one by one, and then we used the Scenario Summary button to create a summary. And that's how you use the Summary Manager button.